I want to tell you about my son, Kory. This is my son, Kory, the most vibrantly joyful person I have ever known.
Amen.
This is Kory's teacher from his last year of school, so I'm so glad he's here. So many of you know that Kory's spirit left his body 4 years ago. And as part of my grief journey, I've written a book to honor him and to share his message. And so I'm just so glad that you're here. The book is called Judgment or Joy, and it's about how being Kory's mom convinced me that a joyful life is a non-judgmental life. So right off the top, I want to ask you if you'll do something for me. I ask you to think of a joyful moment in your life. One particular event or moment where you felt immense joy. Maybe it's a celebration or a new beginning or a connection. So take a few seconds. Think of your joyful moment. Got it? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I just want you to answer by raising your hand and answer all that apply. So raise your hand if during this joyful moment you were all by yourself. Wow. Okay. Raise your hand if in this joyful moment you were connecting with nature, art, music, divine. Quite a few. Yeah. Okay, raise your hand if in this joyful moment you were connecting with every single person. All right, most of us. And raise your hand if during this joyful moment you were judging. Not just discerning, but really judging. Nobody. Oh. All right, well, your answers support my theory that judgment is incompatible with joy. Now, I just want to ask you if you'd like to share. Just turn to the person next to you and share your story of your moment of joy with each other.
Hi, Margaret.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I'll share a moment of joy in my life, and that was holding Kory for the first time when he was born. Did anybody else think of holding a newborn? They are bundles of joy, aren't they? Yeah. Well, if we were to ask Kory to think of a moment of joy in his life, I think he'd have a hard time picking just one. Because many of you knew him, and you know that even with his many challenges, he had weakness from a stroke, Down syndrome, language impairment, and daily seizures. Even with all of those challenges, Kory was one of the happiest people on earth. But happy doesn't really fully capture his spirit. Kory always brought a little spice and a little flavor to his joy. I remember when he was little, he loved to sit on the floor in the den and watch his brother make toy trains go around this gigantic track, took up the whole room. And Kory thought that was pretty amusing. But every once in a while, he'd sneak a hand or a foot onto the track. The train would fall off. His brother would yell, "Kory!" And Kory would erupt into giggles and laughter. That's one of the ways Kory connected with his brother. Kory had beautiful brown skin. He sported a short afro. He rode around in a bright red medical stroller. Kory stood out in most crowds. Yet still most people just looked past him. Others were scared of him. Some were curious and they asked questions about him. Only very few really engaged with Kory. And when someone did engage, that was cause for celebration. Because Kory knew that connection is the secret to happiness. As I watched Kory grow, I realized Kory was the only person I knew who never judged anyone. He was always welcoming anyone who wanted to connect. And he didn't even judge the ones who didn't. He just went on by, looking to connect with the next person who was interested. I, on the other hand, I could be kind of judgy. In a good way, though. I judge the judgmental people. I think that works, right? No, not so much. But why do we judge? Hey, hi. Why do we judge? Often, I think we judge to cover up our own perceived inadequacies, give our egos a little boost. Freud called it projection. Jesus called it the plank in your eye. We judge others to deflect our own self-judgments. And then there's that hit of dopamine we get when we judge others. It can feel kind of satisfying. Yeah, anybody know that feeling?
Sure.
Unitarians would never feel that way.
No, never.
Yeah. But does judgment produce joy? No. Kory helped me realize that judgment actually blocks joy because it causes defensiveness and disconnectedness. So, Kory, with his focus on connection, that's really where I think I began to realize, I think I want to begin releasing my judgments. And when I talk about releasing judgment, come on in, yeah. I'm not suggesting that we stop discerning or distinguishing what's healthy from what's unhealthy. We do need discernment. We do want to acknowledge where there's room to grow. But those harsh, critical judgments, they're incompatible with joy. And with Kory's joyful life, I just began to think about what did I learn from him? How could I move forward? And so at this point I began to think, I think we really do have to choose one or the other, judgment or joy. That's the name of the book. So when I began my journey to try to release my judgments, I thought I'm going to just try to figure out what it is that makes Kory so non-judgmental. I kept thinking, how do you do that, little buddy? He sure received a lot of judgment. Even ignoring someone is a judgment. But I think the reason Kory didn't judge others is because he did not take in their judgments of him. He did not internalize, hello, hi. He did not internalize what others thought of him. And that's because Kory was this unique person who just knew he belonged on the earth. At his most sacred core, in the deepest way a person can, Kory knew he belonged, imperfections and all. Of all the things to be sure of in this life, that may be the most important, to know that we belong. See if you can just feel that for a minute. You belong. Just take that in. You feel good? Kory sure thought so. He celebrated that knowing whenever the Spirit moved him. Just let out. He might not have said words you'd understand, but, oh yes, he spoke his truth. And he never once took my shushes to heart, not here in church, not even in the hall of Congress. Kory was just always authentically just who he was meant to be, not one speck of self-judgment. So what do you think would be different in our lives if we knew we belonged every moment of every day? We probably wouldn't judge ourselves for our own perceived inadequacies. Not too long ago, I heard a very smart woman I know who was struggling with technology call herself stupid. The other day, I caught myself looking in the mirror, thinking, you should never go out of the house without makeup. A man I know said, he'll never find a wife because he's too short. Another guy said he hates his hair. We'd never say these things to our loved ones, but many of us have kind of fallen into that habit of thinking them or even saying them out loud about ourselves. Sound familiar to anybody? Yeah. The poet Rumi said, we don't have to seek for love. We just have to seek and find the barriers within ourselves we have built against love. And I think those inner judgments are one of those barriers. So where do our inner judgments come from? 1 second. I think our inner judgments come from others who've judged us, holding us to some unattainable, imagined standard and boosting their egos in the process. For some of us, self-judgments can also come from oppressive systems. But why have we taken ownership of those external judgments? Why have we brought them in? I think we sometimes take them in to try to preempt or silence the judgments from others. Maybe if I judge myself and fix myself, I won't have to hear judgments from somebody else. I know that's kind of what I've seen with my work, to try to unlearn my own judgments. That's where I found that what I was doing. Which sounds logical, but at what cost? There's a cost to it, right? I like to think sometimes of my life as a garden. And so there's no doubt the harvest is coming. The only question is, what seeds are we planting? And so as we carry and repeat those judgments over the years, they begin to reshape and redefine us. Those voices can chip away at who we really are and who we were meant to be. And I think Kory would say, that's tragic. How does trying to be something we're not and never quite getting there affect our self-worth? Can you remember a time when you shushed yourself only later to wish you had spoken your truth? Well, I want to share a couple of stories from the book that celebrate Kory's authenticity. A few years ago, I took both my boys on a cross-country road trip. Get out and see the America. We went to museums, we went to national parks, we visited a family farm. It was so much good stuff. Now, Kory had always loved swinging. And he loved riding in the car. He'd just get euphoric. His whole body full of happiness with that movement. And so on this trip, I thought, I'm going to take Kory go-kart riding. Right? With the open air feel, it's like a combination of swinging and riding in the car. Kory's going to love it. He never even smiled. I don't know why, it just wasn't his thing. I guess maybe too noisy, right? But as soon as we got Kory back into the Dodge rental van, he was happy as a clam. Rocking, smiling ear to ear, joyfully vocalizing. That was his jam, and he knew what made him happy. So he might not have spoken words you'd understand, almost never, but Kory's authentic spirit touched people in a way words really can't. Now, Kory did not handle external noises very well a lot of the time. But if you knew Kory, you know he liked to make some noise. So another day on this trip, we went to the U.S. Capitol. And we got in line to go into the congressional chambers. What do you know? Kory started joyfully vocalizing. The rules say you have to be quiet. He would not be shushed. So we got out of line and we went somewhere else where Kory could speak his truth. Kory could also raise a ruckus in church. And I used to take him out of the sanctuary so that we didn't disturb anyone. And then one day, the wonderful Reverend Aaron White encouraged us to stay. What a blessing. And I cry almost every time I talk about it. What a blessing it was to know we were welcome, if even a little noisy. So in the book, each of these little vignettes is followed by a thought-provoking question or two. I think of each one as a seed we can plant in our garden of joy. So I just pause now and ask you to reflect on a couple of questions. So you can feel free to just close your eyes and think, or if you want to make notes, we have those tools available. And so here are the two questions. Where have you silenced your voice? And where do you need to get out of line so you can speak your truth? And just take a couple of minutes and reflect. Thank you. Would anybody like to share? Yes.
Sure. And this was a brilliant person, I would say. And I did not speak my truth to them. I thought I should listen. Mm-hmm. And actually that was from fear of losing their friendship at the time. Mm. And ultimately I lost the friendship because of that. Mm. And that was pointed out to me. Mm. So, yeah, I regret that. Mm-hmm. But there's no going back. Mm. It's one of those things you have to leave alone. I can't fix it. I can't get it back. Mm. I can't make up for it.
That's a loss.
I lost something.
Yeah.
Because I didn't speak out. It doesn't matter what I would have said or what would have happened if I'd spoken out. How will I know?
You don't know.
So, and that's my lesson.
Wow.
And this is a perfect forum for it. I thank you because it's
Special
really
story.
troubling me, and now I'm,
Thank you so much for sharing. Anyone else? Hey, Travis.
Good afternoon. I've known her for 30 years plus now. We've been in the trenches together. I was living in Washington, D.C. In grad school. I was invited to a party. And it seemed like everybody at that party, it was a house party, knew words that I didn't understand. Mm. Technical words, and I've been involved in the civil rights movement since age 14, so I'm ready to fight now. But I didn't know the words that they were using in communication, and that caused me to kind of simmer in my seat and not say much. Now, Patty will tell you I haven't quit talking since I discovered something else. But that made me go to the dictionary and learn every word I heard under the definition and how to apply it. And I learned later that was stupid too, because communication had to do with whether they heard it or not. And I've learned that in so many different ways. For instance, I was in a group in grad school, and it was mostly white female teachers. And they looked at me because I was the only African American in the group, had one boy, and said, I had a kid who was speaking Ebonics, and language they didn't get, and asked me, and I told him he needs to speak proper English. And they asked me, did I say the right thing? And my response was, if they're in their circle in the hood, and they're communicating in that language, and they're hearing and reflecting and responding, that's good English. Now, when we go into a professional environment, we understand there's a different language we want to talk, but we need to teach them. One is not better than the other. It's just more applied in a certain environment. Now, I can tell you today, and she will too, I haven't quit running my mouth since.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked when you raised your hand to talk about it. Thank you, though. So I think that those two stories really do show the two sides of where I think where this comes from, that we're silencing our voice. One is that we are afraid we're going to hurt someone. And what I've learned along the way is I did that too. I've silenced myself a lot, thinking, oh, I don't want to hurt this person, or I don't want to, create some kind of problem in the situation. And what I've learned is, because there's a lot of passion. When we speak our truth, there's passion that comes with that. And so, we might, come at each other a little bit. But what I've learned is, no, I can speak my truth with compassion, with regard for the other person. I can do that. And it's not easy. It does take some work.
And I'm a witness.
Yes. And then the other side of it is that we are just judging ourselves as not being as good as. And so those inner judgments do often block our authentic voices. Yeah? And so it is only by releasing our self-judgments and affirming our own worth and belonging that we will live into the truest version of ourselves that will not be shushed. Living authentically, speaking our truth compassionately, releasing our judgments, all of those practices are incredibly liberating. But they are not even the ultimate harvest of this garden we're planting. Kory never heard of the Harvard study on happiness. Yeah. Kory never read a Brené Brown book. We love Brené Brown. But he knew what they've concluded, and that is connection with others is everything in life. Connection is the secret to happiness and joy. But we can't connect if we're busy judging. If life is a garden, judgments are the weeds that choke out any chance for the rich harvest of joyful connections. Kory's, by not wasting a moment judging, Kory's 17 years of life were full to the brim with connections, love, and vibrant joy. Now, this is the part, I love all of this. This is the part that really gives me goosebumps. When we release our self-judgments and embrace our authentic selves, a profound shift occurs. We no longer, we feel less inclined anyway to judge and prejudge others and plant weeds in their garden. When we really respect and love ourselves, we no longer need that imperfect other to feel better than. We no longer need judgy ego boosts to compensate for our perceived inadequacies. And it is when we transcend judging ourselves and then others that we can cultivate the connections that give rise to true joy. This is my dad who passed away earlier this year. And I mean, can you see how much joy is going on there? So, when we raised our hand earlier, I think everybody said we choose joy, right? So I hope that this talk, and I hope the book, inspires you to want to plant the seeds of respect and love in your life garden, love for yourself and love for others. The book offers 33 short readings on how to plant those seeds, 33 ways to choose connection over judgment, 33 ways Kory pointed us toward a joyful life. So I want to leave room for the rest of this time. We have time for discussion. But I'll close with this question. What self-affirming, authentic seeds will you plant in your life garden this week? And from there, we'll just, if you want to answer that question or ask another question, just leave it open.
Do you have books to sell here or?
Yes, thank you for asking. They're going to be on the table out there when we dismiss. I think there's a little sign where you can scan a code and do it that way, or if you have a check or cash, that's fine too.
I have a friend who recently lost her daughter who was very disabled, and I think she would get a lot out of your book.
Okay. Well, thank you. Yeah, hi.
I just want to make an observation. For several years, my husband and I have been trying to grow a garden. We've been battling squirrels on the Texas side and inexperienced, and we've never succeeded. And this year we have a bumper crop of everything except that. We just got to be and so you're talking about planting seeds. And we've been planting these seeds, and there's something came together this year that brought, it brought forth all this wealth from the ground. And in a way, that's been the same case with us personally. I don't know if it's the joy of being 70, that suddenly I don't have to please people. I try not to be cruel, but my job isn't to make other people happy. And I know that your son made a lot of people happy. I don't know that he was working on it.
Yeah.
He just was.
Yeah.
And so there's something about just kind of letting go and letting these things, just an observation I have. I don't know why we are so happy at this point in our lives. I don't know why our vegetable garden came in, but we're just enjoying it. So, just a thought.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is that, I think that striving to do something, to accomplish something, to fit in. And I think, that's to me the core of it all for Kory, is that he did not strive to fit in because he knew he belonged. There was just no question. And so, when we can relax that, then there is a flow and an abundance, I think. Yeah. Deborah.
I was just thinking your invitation to what seed of self-affirmation should we be planting this week, and I was realizing I've been such a terrible procrastinator, and so what I'm doing is, and I've got some big projects I need to be doing, and so the seed that I'm planting is the seed of you can do it. You have it within you.
Yes. Sometimes procrastination is also beneficial. Yeah, but at some point we can start affirming our ability to move forward. What else is coming up for anybody?
Well, I'd like to make a comment on behind her question, her statement she made. I've been using the term in sports vernacular, it's 440. Because I'm about her age. And I think when you get to a certain season of life, the mess don't matter anymore. So everything I choose to do now has to matter. It has to have significance. I do a lot of work with kids, folks in prison, out of prison, you name it, we're doing it. But that all has to matter, and I think that's why in my season, and maybe many of us in this room, it's got to make a difference. That's why.
You don't want to do silly things. You don't have to do it, and why you do it if it's not important.
Unless it's fun. It's really fun.
And,